Good evening. If I may, I'd like to call this meeting to order. If you'd all like to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you'd stand for one moment, a moment of silence. Thank you. Please be seated. Dan, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Hanna.
Here.
Commissioner Palumbo.
Here.
Commissioner Robel.
Here.
Vice Mayor Hifnickle.
Here.
Mayor Kennedy.
Here. Our first agenda item is 1A, report of the Sheriff's Department. Would like to come forward?
How you doing? Corporal Mall, Sheriff's Office, Sergeant Captain's office tonight, so I'll be doing this. As far as the significant activity, everything went down from the prior month, so all your Part 1 crimes have gone down, the burglaries have gone down. There was a total of 11 arrests in the city. Looks like the majority, well, 3 or 4 of them were DUI. The only other thing, there was basically just 2 traffic crashes also. One was in a parking lot, 1211 Gulf Boulevard, which I believe is a convenience store, and the other was on a back road of 9th Avenue and 1st Street. That's basically the activity for the month. There's really nothing significant to report.
Is there a member of the commission who'd like to ask anyone? Okay. I'd just like to tell the audience that the Sheriff Department is here from 6:45 to 7 at our commission meetings, so that if you would like to talk to them before the meeting, you're always welcome to do that. We had our coffee with the cop this morning from 7:30 to 9, and we have it quarterly, so be on the lookout for that. Also, we have it at Krabby Bill's. Thank you. Agenda item 1B is a presentation from the Gulf Boulevard Pedestrian Bicycle Safety Study presentation, and that is Danny Hendrickson, I believe. Hi.
My name's Danny Hendrickson, work for Icon Consulting.
Can't hear you.
Is this on?
Yeah, it's on.
Okay.
Is it on? Yeah. Okay. Danny Hendrickson, I work for Icon Consulting Group, and we were tasked by Pinellas County, Illinois, Tom Washburn, to perform a pedestrian bicycle safety study. Here.
It's not on. It's not on. Stand down.
Better? Good. Okay. So we were tasked by Pinellas County to do a pedestrian safety study along Gulf Boulevard from Walsingham up to. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you go to the next slide, please? Walsingham up through Clearwater Beach. The purpose of the study that we did was to look at all the existing pedestrian crosswalks, the bicycle facilities along the corridor, and make recommendations for improvements, adding new locations, removing old ones, and then general improvements to the bike facilities. And then what we did to do that was we did a lot of pedestrian bicycle volume counts, did crash analysis, and also field reviews. Part of this presentation is about the Clearwater and Bel Air Beach sections, so I'm going to go through a little quickly. Let me know if you have questions later. Good, next one. We started off with doing pedestrian bike counts. We did these counts all throughout the corridor on one weekday, one Saturday, and one Sunday in March of 2018, earlier this year. For the hours, you can see these are the sheets that we use to track every crossing of the Gulf Boulevard along the whole corridor. Next slide, please. General observations we made: most pedestrians were crossing at the side streets, not mid-block. And when I say mid-block, I mean between the 2 side streets where most of the existing crosswalks are located. The most out of the 3 municipalities, you guys here clearly had the most activity. And the bicycle facilities out there are typically 3-foot paved shoulder, which we don't actually consider a bike lane. Bike lane needs to be 4 feet. Okay, after we did our counts, we did a crash analysis. So in 5 years, within your city, well, the total corridor, we had 25 pedestrian and bike crashes. Within Indian Rocks Beach, there was 11 bike crashes and 3 pedestrians. Next one, please. And the majority of those crashes were related to right-turning vehicles versus pedestrians. So from Gulf Boulevard onto a side street turning right, or from the side street turning onto Gulf Boulevard turning right. A lot of times it'll happen when someone's driving, looking the other way, they turn back to make their turn, all of a sudden a bicycle has come. Unfortunately, it's a fairly common occurrence with this amount of bike traffic. And then your crosswalks here currently, we have, they're mostly mid-block, they're mostly with the concrete median refuge, which is a good thing. Obviously, it helps people feel safe in the middle. They can complete the crossing in 2 stages. Also, you have the flashing rapid rectangular flashing beacons, RRFBs. These are the latest and greatest in protecting pedestrians out on the roadway. They have the flashing strobes, and they typically do a pretty good job of getting vehicles to stop for pedestrians. Also, we looked at the adjacent state section of Gulf Boulevard, which is south of Walsingham. Where you have the kind of unusual typical section of the flush asphalt roadway with the travel lane, the bike lane, the sidewalk. As you go further south, like toward Reddington, you get the wider 5-lane section with mid-block crosswalks, and then further south, like maybe towards St. Pete Beach, most of the crossings, a little bit more urban corridor, and your tighter corridor, and the crossings are more on side streets. Now, what we did, our methodology, this has a couple informations on it, so well, okay. So what we did is we looked at generators and attractors. Where is it important that we have crosswalks? Where are people are generally going from the residential to the beach? But also, we looked at specific volumes. 20 pedestrians per one location in 1 hour is generally our criteria. We looked at spacing, it's about 300 feet, and we looked at the crashes. And then this graphic here is a little hard to see on the big screen, but we grouped the pedestrians together. Where could we reasonably say that this big group of pedestrians crossed? And then we screened out, we could click again, screened out, the animation doesn't like, this thing doesn't like the animation. Anyways, we screened out the lower volumes. If you can go back 1 or 2. Full one. Perfect. We screened out lower volumes, and if you could see the animation, it would show that we focused on areas of the higher volumes. That's where we're making our recommendations for new crosswalks. Sometimes you'll see that they are maybe a mid-block location that has a high volume and a crosswalk and a side street with a high volume. We grouped them together, and we thought that since we saw people coming from the side street going to the mid-block, let's put it at the side street so that people aren't having to then come to Gulf Boulevard, walk down the road, and go to the crossing. So these are our recommendations south of 15th Avenue. The next slide is recommendations north of 15th Avenue. Similar. The same methodology that we use for both locations, for both segments on the whole corridor. Next one, please. This is what we did at Bel Air, very similar, except they don't have anywhere near the amount of pedestrian traffic as you guys, so we did not recommend any changes here or on the next slide at Clearwater. So now we're talking about bike lanes. We looked at the existing bike facilities. Like I mentioned, we have a 3-foot paved shoulder here, not technically a bike lane, because a bike lane is supposed to be 4 feet. Next one, please. We looked at your existing typical section. You have a 3-foot paved shoulder, 11-foot travel lane, 13-foot center lane, left turn lane, and we said, what if we took that same footprint and restriped it as a 5-foot bike lane, 10-foot travel lane, 11-foot center 2 left turn lane. We're only widening a very tiny bit in the middle where we already have those concrete islands, and we're able to fit a 5-foot bike lane and 10-foot travel lane within the same footprint. We understand 10-foot is a little bit more narrow than the 11-foot currently, but with the focus on pedestrian bike safety statewide, we kind of want cars to be a little bit more uncomfortable. We want them to be alert and looking out for what's going on, and we want them to slow down. Speed limit here is 30, so we want that to be on. Next one, please. This is in Clearwater. Similar idea, they have a 3-foot paved shoulder, similar recommendation. And then on the next slide, we see the segment of Clearwater towards the north end where there is not as wide of a footprint, and we just recommended some pavement markings, share of pavement markings. Also, on the next slide, you'll see green bike lanes. This is where We have what's called a keyhole between the travel lane and the exclusive right turn lane. We recommended adding some green pavement to really draw attention to that conflict area where cars are getting into the right turn lane just as bikes might be traveling along it. We don't have that situation here in Indian Rocks, but that was the Clearwater recommendation. So finally, summary of the study. On the left at the top of the map box, you'll see new locations for crosswalks we recommended. On the right, you'll see the ones we recommended to be removed. The next thing is a wayfinding sign. This is just kind of another idea we came up with. As people are approaching Gulf Boulevard from the residential side, if you can catch them a block back or so, and they see a sign that says crosswalk 1 block over at Gulf Boulevard. Okay, if I'm 1 block away, I might walk over to that next block and then go to Gulf Boulevard and cross at the crosswalk. But once I reach Gulf Boulevard and I can see the beach, I'm probably not going to then walk a block over this way, right? So if we can get people before they get to the beach, to the view, maybe there's a chance they'll use that crosswalk over there. Inexpensive idea that might just get a little bit more pedestrian compliance. Finally, the last recommendation was high emphasis crosswalks along the side, at the side streets along Gulf Boulevard. This just draws attention that these are crosswalks. These are where you're going to see peds and bikes crossing, and just be a little bit more careful. Finally, as I mentioned, restriping throughout to get a more narrow travel lane and a 5-foot bike lane. And then the next 2 lines are up in Clearwater, the Sharrows and the green bike lane recommendations that we made there. And the next slide is cost estimates. So this is for the entire corridor, which was, again, from Walsingham up to Clearwater Beach. Your segment is a little bit smaller, but it does include the 8 crosswalk locations and removing the 3 existing that we recommended. Again, the widening the bike lane, narrow the travel lane would not be that full 830 you see, but a portion of that, just based on the distance within the city. And that's it. The next slide is questions. If you have any questions, happy to answer them.
Thank you, Danny. Does anyone on the commission have any questions? What I
Yeah, real quick, just, I know I saw an email from someone that said that the county had grants or that they would be paying for putting them in initially in that, like the crosswalks.
I'll let the county speak on that.
Good evening, Tom Washburn, Pinellas County Public Works Craft Engineering. So yeah, the cost estimates, if you might recall, this built on a study that we did back in 2013 that resulted in the pedestrian facilities that you have out there now. When we did that and we coupled that as part of our resurfacing, we were able to capture some DOT safety grants. It's our intention, based on your approval of the recommendations, for us to move forward with trying to secure that same type of safety grant funding, particularly for the crossings. So that is our intention. But we haven't secured any funding yet. There's nothing in our CIP for these improvements at this time.
But on the crosswalks, did you guys do a study here either earlier this year or the end of last year for us?
That's the study that we're presenting.
Okay, that's cool, because you just said it's based on the 2013. I was a little confused.
I'm sorry. In 2013, we did our initial study.
Okay.
That resulted in what you have out on Gulf Boulevard now,
Okay.
with our RFPs.
All right.
This was a request to go back and do an after study, see if we captured where the demand was, and see if there's other locations that would meet the requirements of the crossings.
Thank you.
Tom, I was going to ask you
Sorry.
a question. But you go first.
Ladies first.
I was talking to Whit Blanton. I was in a meeting with him before, and what I was thinking that maybe we could workshop this to see if we actually wanted all of these with the commission down the road, and talk more about the funding, in case you were not able to secure the funding that was necessary, how were we going to pay for the rest of it? The other question I had was, Dunedin has some pretty creative ideas, and I've looked at some through Ford Pinellas where they're not exactly all the blinking lights. They've had some artistic kinds of crosswalks that one was fish bones. I don't know if you've ever seen that one, and I didn't know what your thoughts were. I know that we want to stay with something that people will be able to relate with when they're looking at the crosswalks, but the one thought I wanted to know was, were every one of these that you picked, were those gonna have the blinking lights at them? Was that the thought?
That's our
That was the
recommendation.
thought? Okay. Right. Nick?
Yeah, I agree. I think workshopping is a great idea. My question was to the costs earlier mentioned. I didn't see it broken out for what just Indian Rocks Beach costs were. It was total costs for the whole project. So unless I missed that, is that in here somewhere?
Danny prepared a separate sheet that we'll provide to you, but the cost for Indian Rocks Beach was 1.1 million.
1.1, we chose to do everything that was recommended without any fund. Thank you.
That includes the lane narrowing one, full corridor.
Restriping across everything.
Okay,
Can we get a breakout of that cost, like what would just the crosswalks be and without the bike lane and all that? Okay, thank you.
perhaps when we have the workshop, I don't know if one of you might be available would that be okay with you? Okay. Thank you very much. I don't know if you can see in the audience, but this is the study. You may remember there were people that were sitting in chairs back, I believe it was in February or March, and they had vests on. That's what this was the study for, was checking the pedestrians and the bikers. And so that's what this is, and that's where we're at today. We're checking to see, how we're doing in Indian Rocks Beach and what we need to do to improve. So I appreciate you. Thank you for coming. We are now at public comment, and each speaker has 3 minutes. Any member of the audience may come forward. I'd like you to give your name, your address, and state any comment or concern regarding any matter which the City Commission has control. All statements made to the City Commission shall be made to the City Commission as a whole. It is not to be directed to any individual City Commission member, and no personal or slanderous remarks shall be permitted. No speaker shall be interrupted, and no debate shall take place between the speaker and the City Commission. Thank you. Your name?
My name is Cheryl Hunter. I'm with Hunter Business Law, and I'm here representing Richard Pereiro, who resides at 445 18th Avenue, and he's here with me today. There is a case number associated with the matter that I'm addressing to you this evening, which is 2001-02503. I have some documentation I'd like my paralegal just to give you. This was emailed to your attention last night, but this is just for your convenience to be able to refer to it. Don't expect you to do it in this 3 minutes, but just for future reference. Over 1 year ago, after Hurricane Irma, Mr. Pereiro first contacted the city to express his concerns associated with inherently unstable, invasive, hazardous Australian pine trees located on the neighboring property. Please understand, we're referring to over 19 trees, many of which are over 60 feet. They are leaning toward and hanging over his property. They've already damaged the cement wall, they've already caused problems with the pavers, and they are a structural threat. More important to Mr. Pereiro, however, is the very real threat that they pose of being uprooted and flying around and causing serious danger to people and property. This was said by the Florida Department of Agriculture in regard to Australian pines. If such a tree is on a location where it can harm people and or damage structures, if it were to fall, then it should be considered hazardous and removed immediately. Mr. Pereiro was asked to obtain an arborist report. He did that. Mr. Rick Albee provided a report. You have a copy of that. You have an additional copy of another report by another certified arborist in your package. Both of these arborists concluded these are inherently dangerous, they pose an immediate threat, and they need to be removed. The problem is that this started over a year ago. The neighbor, Mr. Valori, who I understand was a prior city commissioner, was sent a letter attaching the code which says that he had 60 days to remove these trees. That was on November 2nd, 2017. No action was taken. He was then sent a second letter March 1st. All of these letters, by the way, are in your package. Again, no action was taken. His sole response was, hey, these trees are healthy, 3 arborists said so, there's no report to support anything that he said. A third letter has been sent yet again on September 5th. Tomorrow is the deadline for him to take action according to that letter. We are now facing Hurricane Michael. It's known to be tropical storms. One of the things you're going to see in these reports is that even a summer thunder shower can uproot these trees. They simply do not have a deep root system, and therefore they are extremely dangerous because they can literally lift up. There are 2 of these trees that are already having to be secured by wires. We are asking you, we'd like to know what is going to be done, because tomorrow's going to come and go. He's clearly done nothing to take action. The other thing I would like to say is Mr. Pereiro is happy to split the cost of this with his neighbor. He's gotten 3 quotes, $12,500 to $15,500 to remove the trees. He's more than willing to work with his neighbor and to have them removed at half of his cost. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to come up tonight for your 3 minutes?
Good evening, I'm Patty Money, I live at 309 Ohio Vista Drive in Indian Rocks Beach. I'm glad that there has been some ending to the vacation rental problem that we have, but my concern is the fact that many of these vacation rentals, I think, the owners don't live here, and I don't know if there's anything that you have decided to either let people know, how to let people know, either in our monthly newsletter. I saw it in the Beach Bee, but I know a lot of people don't read the Beach Bee, and I don't know how you have decided to let people know that there is a change, but they need to know. I know that the house across the street from me was just sold, and the owner is not down here, but talking to another neighbor, he's thinking of maybe renting it out, you know, and there's some other rentals on the street. So I don't know how you want to resolve that problem, but I think it may be a problem, that the owners need to know that there's a change and a significant change.
Thank you, Patty. Is there anyone else who'd like to come forward?
Hi, John Van Steele, 448 Harbor Drive South. I don't know whether you had a chance to see the Pinellas County meeting today, but they were talking about funding out of P3 the remaining Gulf Boulevard undergrounding to the tune of $35 million. Apparently they're going to try to pay for, hopefully pay for all of it. So I just want to make sure that you're aware of that. And just 2 questions about, actually maybe 3 questions about undergrounding perhaps. I'm sort of neutral on this one way or the other, but I'm curious. I believe the transformers are going to be located above ground, and I'm wondering, since we have another storm coming and there were flooded streets already on my way home tonight, if those transformers are rated for being submerged in salt water, which is a reasonable likelihood of occurrence at some point in time. So that's question 1. The second question was whether the people that are on Gulf Boulevard, the residents, are going to have to be contributing. I know in Bel Air Beach, they're undergrounding one section, and the cost is, this is just for residential, is $16,000 per household. So I'm curious whether the people on Boulevard are going to have to be paying for a portion of the undergrounding. And the third thing is if there has been any studies that have been done on whether undergrounding in areas that are prone to saltwater flooding is a good idea, long range. So I realize you can't answer those questions now, but I'd like to talk to you about this later on. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Anyone else tonight who'd like to come forward? Okay. We're going to go to reports. Our city manager is away tonight. His daughter, his only daughter, had her only baby girl tonight. So, this week. So he'll be back tomorrow, and he'll be in touch on some of the items that came before you today. Is there a report from our city attorney?
Yes, Mayor, just briefly, as noted, we recently passed a short-term rental ordinance. I've already met with city staff to be in the process of implementing the administrative components of that, and that is underway. Other than that, I have nothing else to report at this time, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Does anyone on the commission have a question for Attorney Moore? Okay, we'll go to reports of the city commission. We'll start with Vice Mayor Hoffnagel.
No report.
No report. Commissioner?
Yeah, I'll go. I just wanted to, I went to Dean. I know we're getting new recycling containers, and we're talking about how people just throw junk junk in there. I did go to the Pinellas County hazardous waste and dump off a bunch of stuff. And they were handing these out, which explains a lot more. And I don't know if you can get a bunch of these. They're printed by Pinellas County. I'll give it to you when afterwards.
We have those in-house.
We do? Okay, well, I think it would be good to put one with every new container we put out so people could see it. Also, what are they undergrounding right now? Up by where I am.
That's part of the Pinellas County right-of-way use permit for MCI, putting in two-inch conduits from Walsingham to Sankey, and then from Walsingham to the Don Cesar.
And that is
Telecommunications.
for what?
Telecommunications.
Okay.
Anything else? Go.
No, I had some stuff for Greg, but I'll wait till next meeting, I guess.
Okay. Commissioner Hammond?
Nothing except Oktoberfest is coming. We hope you'll all come. And from the meeting at A2K last night, it appears it's going to be a great one.
So this past weekend, I was fortunate enough to go to training from the Florida League of Cities, and there was 42 people that were all in their first term, like myself. It was great to meet everybody, listen to their challenges, and I will say it's very different out there from what I've heard from others about how they go through the process of working with their city staff and budgeting. And I would tell you all that we're very lucky to have the staff that we have, because there were some stories that I would not want to live through, the challenges that I heard. So, thank you.
Okay. Just gonna first, I'm gonna tell you about some events we have coming up so that you know it. This weekend, Saturday, is our Oktoberfest from 11 till 7. It's right out here at Cole Park. You're all invited to come. They have a 50-50, and last year, I think the take was almost $5,000 or $6,000. So it's a really great event. We hope that you'll attend. On October 20th is our coastal cleanup at 8 a.m. Our Hollow Fest is also on October 20th. That is from 10 to 1, and that's a relatively new event that we changed from the haunted house we have. We have outside for children and pumpkins, and so bring your children, grandchildren, whatever, and that's a very good event too. On the first Monday of the month, and that would be November 5th from 4 to 7, I have Monday with the mayor. So anyone is welcome to come to the auditorium. I'm here. I'd love to have you come in. I normally have anywhere from 10 to 20 people, and you just have to wait your turn, but always glad to see everybody and trying to do the best I can to get you answers to your questions. On November 6th, of course, Tuesday is Election Day, and I hope all of you will vote, and just reminding you that this is where you vote. November 13th at 7 p.m. will be our commission meeting next month, Tuesday. And in case you don't come to our next meeting, our previous mayor, Arby, is in the audience tonight, and I wanted to do a shout out to him because on November 17th, which is a Saturday at 12 noon, he will be at the Historical Museum, and there will be a potluck, and they will be discussing the pier. He will tell the history of the pier. His family built the pier, and he will be telling the history, so I hope all of you will go to the Historical Museum. An event that we created this year, November 3rd, will be at Church of the Isles. It'll be a women's tea. The first one in Indian Rocks Beach. It'll be from 1 to 3. All women are invited. We are going to be looking at issues and transitions for women throughout their life. We are looking forward to all the women who either live, work, or play to come and be a part of it. It is dressy casual, and I hope that we will see you there. There is a Gmail, women of IRB at gmail.com, and it is also on Facebook to register. And with that, I will go to 5A, our consent agenda.
Mayor, there's some additions and deletions.
Oh, additions and deletions. Is there any additions and deletions tonight? Okay. Consent agenda. Randy, would you please read?
Yes, Mayor. Consent agenda items A through G. Item A, approval of the September 11, 2018 regular City Commission meeting minutes. Item B, approval of December 18, 2018 special City Commission meeting minutes.
Item C, ratifying the action taken at the September 18, 2018 Special City Commission meeting. Item D, resolution number 2018-08, calling for a municipal general election for the purpose of electing at large qualified candidates to fill the vacancies of 2 commissioner seats for 2-year terms. Item E, resolution 2018-09, recognizing Florida City Government Week, October 22nd to the 28th, 2018, and encouraging all citizens to support the celebration and corresponding activities. Item F, authorizing the city manager to dispose of surplus property and equipment. And item G, receiving and accepting the city's program for public information, PPI, annual evaluation report. This has been a reading of items A through J, the full consent agenda by title. Thank you, Mayor.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Agenda item 6A, ordinance number 2018-08, public hearing, second and final reading. Randy, would you please read this by title?
Yes, Mayor. City of Indian Rocks Beach, ordinance number 2018-08, an ordinance of the City of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 50, Solid Waste, Article 2, Collection and Disposal, Division 1, generally, Section 50-37, Garden Trash, to increase the minimum charge of a special pickup, amending Division 2, Containers, Section 50-63, Concealment, concerning the amount of time collection bins may be left curbside, amending Section 50-66, Accessibility, concerning the period within which collection bins may be placed and must be retrieved from curbside, amending Division 3, Fees and Charges, Section 50-91, Fee Schedule, to alter specified collection fees, providing for renumbering as necessary, providing for severability, providing for the repeal of ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith to the extent of such conflict, and providing for an effective date. This has been a final reading of ordinance number 2018-08 by title only, Mayor.
Dan, would you like to give a report?
Sure, good evening. This is second reading of the proposed rate increases for solid waste. These are the same rate increases that were included in the proposed and ultimately approved fiscal 2019 solid waste operating budget. If approved, they would become effective November 17th, 2018, which would be billed through the county who does our billing along with the water and sewer in the January billing. And I'm here to answer any questions that you have.
Does anyone on the commission have a question for Dan?
I have one for Dean. Do we know when, if we approve this, when the buckets will get here, the larger ones?
We're anticipating the first part of the year.
Thanks, sir.
Anyone else? Okay, the public hearing is now open for comments by the public. Anyone wishing to speak, please come forward and state your name and address clearly for the record on this agenda item.
My name is Gordon Obarski. I live at 708 Beach Trail No. B in Indian Rocks Beach. We're proposing an increase on solid waste for basically for recycling. Bottom line is they don't recycle. They have never recycled. Why are we doing that? Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this agenda item? Hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve ordinance number 208-08.
Second.
Dan, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Hannah?
Yes.
Commissioner Robel?
Yes.
Commissioner Colombo?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hufnagel?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy?
Yes. Agenda item 6B, this is Salt Public House, 1309 Gulf Boulevard. It's quasi-judicial proceeding, public hearing. Randy, would you please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As a reminder, this is a quasi-judicial hearing. In a quasi-judicial hearing, you are not creating law, but applying facts given to the law. Before I begin, excuse me, I need to swear in anybody who will offer testimony before this body, including city staff. So if you could please stand and raise your right hand if you intend to offer any testimony before this body concerning this application. This would include the applicant, any agents, city staff, etc. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Please be seated. City staff or city commission, before we proceed, it's my responsibility to ask if any of you have conducted a site visit for the purpose of considering this application.
No.
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 Let the record reflect all have responded in the negative. Have any of you had any extra, excuse me, ex parte communications with the applicant concerning this application? No.
Yes.
Do Commissioners Hoofnagel and Commissioner Robel, do either of you feel that any of those communications affect your ability to impartially adjudicate this matter?
Nope.
Thank you. With that, I tender the meeting to staff for staff presentation.
Good evening, City Commission. On September 18th, 2018, Aiden Bowles, manager of May and Friday LLC, submitted an alcoholic beverage use designation application requesting a 4 COP liquor on premises and package sales for Salt Public House located at 1309 Gulf Boulevard. In July 2017, the previous establishment, Sandbar, closed its door. Sandbar had previously operated under a 4 COP alcoholic beverage use designation since October 2012. A variance was granted in October 2017 to 1309 Gulf Boulevard LLC to remodel the restaurant and bar located at 1308 Gulf Boulevard, to add a walk-in cooler to the rear of the building, and to bring the restrooms into ADA compliance. Mr. Bowles has invested both time and money to improve the structure, enhance the ambiance, and rehabilitate the reputation of the pub over the past year. The Salt Public House is located within a strip center which houses Nexon Surf Shop and a restaurant and bar, formerly Sandbar, at the corner of 14th Avenue and Gulf Boulevard. Mr. Bowles has advised there will be no amplified music, bands, radios, or televisions located on the outside patio deck. There will only be chairs and tables. Mr. Bowles, DBA Man Friday, currently holds an inactive 4 COP quota alcoholic beverage license from the state of Florida. Mr. Bowles is not able to activate his state license until the city approves that location complies with the zoning regulations for the sale of alcoholic beverages on the state's application. The state's 40 CP, a quota beverage license, allows for the sale of beer, wine, and liquor by the drink or in a sealed containers for consumption on or off premises where sold. Quota licenses are issued annually by the state based on the increase in the population of a county, by reason of the county permitting the sale of intoxicating beverages when such sale had been prohibited, or by reason of the revocation of a quota beverage license. The division, if there are more applicants than the number of available license, shall provide a method of double random selection by public drawing. Alcoholic beverage use designations are governed by Chapter 6, Alcoholic Beverages. A review of the application by the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, per records maintained within the Pinellas County Sheriff's Records Management Division, identified offenses for Aiden C. Bowles and Sabrina D. Bowles, the interested parties on the state of Florida alcoholic beverages and tobacco application. Those records have been provided to the City Commission for their review. After review of the application by the planning consultant, it was determined that Salt Public House is in compliance with Chapter 6 of the Code, Chapter 6, Alcoholic Beverages, Code Chapter 110 Zoning, and Resolution Number 2002-95, Resolution Seating Parking Chart. Code Section 6-33, authority of the City Commission to designate location, empowers the City Commission to designate the location and classification to place reasonable restrictions deemed appropriate, such as repeated or intermediate nuisance activities and/or unlawful noise levels originating from the establishment or the parking area shall result in the revocation of the alcoholic beverage designation, which staff recommends be applied to this application. And that's it.
Does anyone on the City Commission have a question for the city clerk? Do you have a question for the city clerk?
I guess I don't know if it goes to Randy or, but I'm just wondering, I mean, the man's been working on the place for a year. We had the Red Lion change hands, and they sold beer and wine and alcohol without even coming up to us. And then the Jacks did. And I'm just wondering why he had to wait after he was finished to come before us and the other people didn't. I mean, was there some kind of different deal with this, or?
Sounds like he was in a different posture. I'm not his legal counsel as
Okay.
to what his particular procedure is. We're going through the procedure we have for approving a license. How that works relative to the state is his counsel and his endeavor.
Okay.
But with that, if there's...
Am I allowed to ask him questions, or can I?
He'll have an opportunity to
Okay,
make
all
his
right,
presentation.
I'll wait till it comes up, okay.
Is there anyone else who'd like to ask a question of the city clerk? Mr. Bowles, would you like to come forward?
Sure. Well, this is my fourth time in this august building, other than the time I've come here to vote.
Mr.
the
Bowles,
first-
can you state your name and address?
My name is Aidan Charles Bowles, 530 Harbor Drive North, Indian Rocks Beach. And the first time concerned another building, different. It still cost me $5,000 in drawings, which apparently I should never have had to do because the then existing ordinance would never have allowed me to put my bar and restaurant at that location. That location is still vacant at 2701 Gulf Boulevard. When I took over this building, I had two choices. To slap $20,000 worth of paint on it, use the grandfathered in rule, open it up. It was disgusting. There was raw sewage running on the floors. Electricity was a fire hazard. The air conditioning fire hazard, so we decided to take it absolutely down to the nuts and bolts. We have expended, including the license, $750,000 of my money. And I now have, I think, what the gentleman who issued us the license from the State Bureau of Business and Professional Regulation, he said one of the best developed buildings he has seen in his area from Passigril to northern Clearwater. That license was issued several weeks ago. We have 88 bathrooms. We have ramps out the back for wheelchair access. We had to build a sidewalk down the side of the building for ADA access for wheelchairs. I've held off hiring 7 people, five of whom are Indian Rocks Beach residents. This meeting here was a total blow to the blue to me. I had no idea that I was going to risk $750,000 and not be allowed to open. The building is ready. It's turnkey ready. It's state of the art. We held back no expense. Even the insurance assessors who were there yesterday said that if anything, we were underinsured rather than overinsured. We have hurricane sliding doors, hurricane proof, and I simply ask you to, the last step in getting the license transferred out of ESCO and onto the building is the decision of this commission. So I would ask you to give it your favorable consideration.
Does anyone on the commission have a question for Mr. Bowles? Any questions?
Yeah, so in all this process that you went through for the last, I don't know, what was it, 7, 8 months? 13 months. No one at the city told you that you needed to come up in front of the city to get approval?
No.
Okay.
Well, I have been before the city, before the Board of Adjustments.
Right.
To put the walk-in off the back, and then that had come before then a full city commission for approval, and that was unanimously approved.
Right.
And at that point, I had mistakenly assumed that the city knew what I was doing. They approved the extension, which cost, I think, $19,000 in total, because it had to have special licensing and special engineering approval. And so I assumed that we were all hunky-dory, that everybody knew what everybody was doing and knew exactly what I was doing, especially in view of my previous application at 2701 Gulf Boulevard. So I had no idea that there was a prospect that at the end of this process that this could actually be denied and left with a 4 COP license, $550,000 worth of improvements to a state-of-the-art ADA compliant building. I turned a dump into a jewel, and I just never thought that for one moment that it could fall on its face.
Well, no, I understand. So no, you were never given a piece of paper. There was nothing at all that you knew that you would have to do this after the fact that it's done and.
I went to the city to get a letter, 2 letters. One saying how many seats we had inside the building for the purposes of DirecTV, determining how much my NFL ticket was going to cost, and the other one was to say that we weren't 500 feet from a school or a church. And I was handed a package and said, have this back to us by Wednesday for you to be on the October 9th meeting. And I said, what's the package for? And they said, to see if we're going to allow you to open. And I said, you got to be kidding. And that was the first I heard of it. So
I'll offer an apology for the city that you should have known a long time ago that you would have had to go through all this. And I'm just wondering, I'm wondering why the other restaurants and bars got to open before they came to us. Is there?
How another restaurant opened is not germane to resolving the application.
Oh, I understand that. I'm just wondering what is the process that they got to do it and this gentleman did not. That's where would I have to go for that answer?
I think that's a discussion for another time.
Okay, no problem.
Does anyone else have a question for Mr. Bowles? Anyone? Ed? Okay, Mr. Bowles, if you'd like to sit down, and then I'm going to open the public hearing.
thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to come up and state your name and your address?
My name is Gordon Obarski. I still live at 708 Beach Trail. Number B, get it straight. What I think here happened is borders on insanity or criminal. Okay? When somebody comes, I think the city needs to put in a procedure that somebody's opening a bar, they hand them a packet and say, here's what you need to do. It has everything listed, piece by piece, what you have to do. And if the city doesn't do that, I think it's absolutely wrong. Okay, this man here has spent so much money, and you know, he can't even open his business. I think somebody at the city, I don't care who it is, whether it's Joan or whoever, needs to have a packet. And I think it's up to you to direct the city, because you run the city does not run you. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to come up? Please don't clap.
I'm Patty Money, where I live at 309 by Vista Drive, and I think that this gentleman has put an awful lot of work into this restaurant. I watched it grow and change over the years, and I'm wondering, when are they going to open? When are they going to open? It's going to open soon. And then, you know, something always happens. I think he deserves the chance like everybody else. He needs to have the agreement from the commission to have the liquor license, and let's have a party.
Is there anyone else who'd like to come up and speak?
My name is Kelly Sistrick. I live at 448 Harbor Drive South, and I didn't swear in before, so.
Do you swear from the testimony you're going to give this body is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, yes. And I just wanted to speak in support of Mr. Bowles' project. I'm grateful that he decided to pursue a second opportunity in Indian Rocks Beach after the 27th Avenue property didn't work out, and I know he's a local resident. I'm sure he's going to be a hands-on manager, and I look forward to patronizing the new restaurant. Thank you.
If I could add one more thing.
Wait,
You'll have another chance to speak.
You will. You will.
How you doing?
Hi.
My name is John Long. I live on 512 20th Avenue. I transferred down here with the U.S. Food Service in 2009. So I've been involved, I've had the pleasure to work for a great company for almost 30 years. And I've been involved in the restaurant business since I got out of college. And since I've been here, I've had the privilege to help the people that own and open 18 on the Rocks, the people with Aqua Prime, PJs. And I'll tell you, this gentleman right here, he spent a lot of money. He spent about $100,000 with the company that I represent to this day. I was with him today, him and his wife, and he spent another, he doesn't know this, but I'll tell him right now. He spent about another $8 grand just on utensils, the plates, the glasses, the things that you need to do to get a restaurant going. You know, I've seen, for whatever reason, the way you guys run the city, it's a beautiful place to live. But from what I see as a guy that's in the restaurant business, there's really no guidelines or simple, when you buy a restaurant here, you buy a building, or you want to get into business, there's no protocol or a package. It seems to be, I help the people at Chicago Jacks, it just, there's no direction, and it seems like it all changes with each individual story. There's no, this is the way we do it, this is our plan, this is the way Indian Rocks Beach government does it. You guys seem to be, there's no protocol, I guess is the best way to put it. So here's a guy, he's probably in, I had a conversation with him yesterday, he's probably in for $750,000, doesn't own the building, has done nothing but enhance a facility that will be nothing good for the taxpayers, travel and tourism, what's best for the community. I know I'll patronize the place, and probably a lot of people in this room will. And there just seems to be no direct protocol. If you buy a building, a restaurant, and you want to open a restaurant, you want to do business in this community, there seems to be no direct course from start to end and make a simple process. This poor guy, he's paid rent.
Speak to us.
I think for 13 months, maybe longer. But I think we need to get on the same page. If somebody comes to do business here, in my opinion, it needs to be a little bit more simplistic. And, you know, it should be very simple. You want to come here, you want to do business, let's get the licenses, let's get the liquor licenses. He's been approved by the state, and we're here. This guy's been ready to open probably for the last 5 months, and he still hasn't opened. And nobody likes to waste good money, you know. And bottom line is, I think he has every right to open this establishment. It'll be nothing good for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak at this time?
Sir, can you raise your right hand?
Swear.
Do you swear from the testimony you're going to give this body is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
My name is Earl Wesson, 671 Garland Circle, Indian Rocks Beach. I am a real estate consultant and developer. I've represented many restaurant owners, alcohol beverage sales, and the code of Indian Rocks Beach is posted on the Unicode. If one were to do their due diligence, they can find the ordinances. I do business in several states. I am able to research the codes of individual cities or counties in those states. That being said, I do agree that it might behoove the city to look into smoothing the process, especially when you find a person who spent the kind of money he has and maybe couldn't open. That being said, I think given the fact that there was a bar there prior with the same license, I think in all fairness he should be able to open. And in parting, I think the difference between this particular situation, Chicago Jacks, and the Red Lion is that the Red Lion and Chicago Jacks actually changed, the corporations were sold. Therefore, the licensing and everything went with the corporation. In this case, the gentleman started from new. Therefore, there was no continuity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Jonathan?
Sir, do you swear from the testimony you're going to give this body is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
May it please the commission, thank you for hearing me out. Jonathan Hurley, 1104 Bay Pine Boulevard, Indian Rocks Beach. I'm responding to the letter I received as an affected party across the street at 1400 Gulf Boulevard, Indian Rocks Beach, and I also speak on behalf of the owners of my condominium association, Pelican's Roost. One of the owners sent an email to this body today. I don't know if you've been able to receive it, I just want to direct you. I only mention that because I won't repeat everything that Mr. Callahan
of the property, this particular property, and the history of the past problems we've had with noise, the ambient noise from this property. So I have no doubt that Mr. Bowles will be a great neighbor and an asset to the city, but I do just want to, because of the history that we've had at this property, and the fact that we have business abutting against the CT zone, and we do have people living across the street, that I just wanted to get some clarification on their, or will there be some express language in their application when we're talking about reasonable restrictions on ambient noise. I see that they don't want to have anything when it comes to amplified music, bands, radios, or televisions located outside on the patio deck, which is great news. That's super. My questions are, what about inside? That bar, when it radiates, it's very loud, whether it's inside or outside. Obviously, it's worse if it's outside, but inside, believe me, in the past, when it's a Tuesday night at 2 in the morning and you're trying to sleep, it's a real nuisance. And it took a long time to try to mitigate that nuisance that we had from the previous owner. So I just think it behooves us up front to get some real clarity on their application so that we don't have to go through what I did, about 5 years of headache to try to fix the problems of a separate owner and past, and I'm sure that's all behind us, but let's just do the right thing up front and put some express language in their application with regards to if there's going to be music inside, to what time. I would assume it's going to be a reasonable time, and but let's express what that is, not just say reasonable time. And I noticed that there's garage doors, which is interesting. I just wanted to know, will those sliding garage doors, will they ever be opened so that the ambient noise from inside will radiate outside? And I would hope that that the city would have some clarifications to restrict when those doors, if they plan to be outside. Hopefully Mr. Bowles tonight can maybe answer these questions, but I also would love to see that express language in their application. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak at this time?
My name is Joe Esposito, J&J Builders. I live at 8001 Baltimore Place in Markham. I'm the builder for Salt, and the gentleman's question right then with the garage doors, they aren't impact, they're laminated glass, much heavier than what was previously there. It was just a single pane glass, so there was a lot of vibration with that. So the noise transference from inside to outside is going to be very minimal. But just to say, everything that Mr. Bowles did on that project, he didn't cut back. He went with the best because he wanted to make this a long-term project. That when he's finished, that his son could take over. His son, it's a family operation, and they are looking out for the betterment of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who'd like to speak on this issue? With that, I'm going to close the public hearing. I'm going to ask the city clerk, is there anything else that you'd like to add to the discussion?
The only thing is when someone makes the motion, if they can add the language that we usually add to the letter, repeated or intermittent nuisance activity and unlawful noise levels. Is at the bottom of the agenda memo.
Mr. Bowles, would you please come back up?
Do you have anything in rebuttal or?
Do you have anything that you would like to add?
Well, in addition to the double impact doors, we also have built a real brick wall, which is going to have a noise absorbing effect. It is our intention to be in full compliance with all noise ordinances for the city of Indian Parks Beach. We're not going to have rock bands, we're not going to have outside music, perhaps a string quartet on a Sunday afternoon. And we're not bringing AC/DC. It's going to be a property. I have 3 far larger establishments in the past, all of which I sold, all of which are still running all of which, the quality of which is such that they're all in exactly the same shape as I started building them in 1998. And there were one in Colorado Springs, one in Norfolk, Virginia, one in Covington, Kentucky. I never had a problem with any neighbors. I never had a problem with anything. And so it's not my intention to be a nuisance, but there is, again, on another matter, I don't want to be restricted on it, but our business plan does not call for the sale of packaged goods. We don't have, or packaged goods, we don't have the space for 6-packs and 12-packs and 24-packs. But if somebody wanted to take a picnic basket with them and a bottle of Chardonnay, I don't want to be denied the opportunity of doing that. But with regard to the type of package sales that goes on at USA Grocery or Sunoco Gas or now Mobil gas station, that is not going to be in our business plan. It's we just don't have room for it. There's no profit in it, so it's not going to be that type of place. So we will not. I will assure you, and I understand that there was some personal animosity between the previous owners who, from what I have heard and what I've witnessed, went out of their way to annoy the neighbors. And that certainly is not going to be the case under this management. So that's pretty much all I have to say.
Mr. Bowles, will you repeat your hours of operation again, just so that I forgot what they were, I just was.
Look, I think they're compliant with the City of Indian Rocks, which is 10 a.m. to 2 a.m.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have closed hearing. Mr. Bowles, if you'd like to sit down, does anyone have any more questions for him? If not, I'm looking for a motion.
I move to approve a request for an alcoholic beverage use designation of 4COP to Man Friday LLC, doing business as Salt Public House, located at 1309 Gulf Boulevard in Indian Rocks Beach. Legally described as Indian Rocks Re-Revised Block 30, Lot 23, and North, 1/2 vacant alley adjacent on the south, with the restriction that repeated intermittent nuisance activity and or unlawful noise levels originating from the establishment or the parking area may result in the revocation of the alcoholic beverage designation.
Second.
Is there any
I
discussion on the
would
motion?
like to thank the company and the entrepreneur for investing in our community. I am confident that the existing ordinances which deal with noise will be more than adequate to address the concerns which have been raised from adjacent residents. And I would like to reiterate that we do live on a commercial beach. The houses across the street are in the commercial tourist district, and this is a commercial activity in a commercial district. And with that, I would like to support and ask my fellow commissioners to also support this motion.
Phil, would you?
I feel very lucky that this man has invested money in that building and the business, and I feel very lucky to be able to visit it soon.
Phil, Commissioner Hammond?
Wholeheartedly, and I, like Phil, would like to apologize for any inconvenience that you've had, and I think that it's a lesson learned that I can speak for our commission, and I'm sure we'll go in and review the process and see if we can make it a little more user-friendly. There's certain laws we have to follow, but that doesn't mean we can't help you guys out a little bit. So I wholeheartedly move forward.
Yeah, I agree. It looks beautiful from the outside. Looking forward to seeing it on the inside. Best of luck, and absolutely agree.
Mr. Bowles, we appreciate you coming as a business person in this community myself, and have been here for 30 years. We're looking forward to you opening this up. We will look at the procedures, see if there's any streamlining, and we don't have the other side of the story here. There's always two sides, so let us look into that. And with that, Deanne, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Hanna?
With pleasure, yes.
Commissioner Palumbo?
Yes.
Commissioner Romero,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hookenagel,
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes. When do you open?
I can already start to actually hire the staff that I've had on hold for the last 4 weeks
Okay.
and start our training. So I would hope within 4 weeks.
Okay. Congratulations,
Thank
and
you.
everyone in the community is waiting to come in and share, break bread with you. Thank you very much for tonight. 7A is other legislative matters. This is appointments to the Finance and Budget Review Committee. Deanne, if you would like to give a presentation on this too.
I'm going to excuse myself
Go ahead.
for 1 second.
Go ahead.
We currently have 2 openings on the, we currently have 2 openings, 2 vacancies on the Finance and Budget Review Committee. And each commissioner has a ballot with a list of names of the people that are interested in being appointed to the Finance and Budget Review. And each person was sent a letter indicating, inviting them to come to the city commission meeting to meet the city commission, and it would give the applicant time to introduce themselves and become appointed with the commission, and the commission become appointed with you. And also I wanted to let the applicants to know that we also have 4 vacancies on the Board of Adjustments and Appeals and 2 vacancies on the Planning and Zoning Boards. So if you're not appointed to the Finance and Budget Review this evening, and they meet once a year, whereas the other boards meet more often, if we could put your name in the hat for those, that would be we would love that. So, if you want to come forward when the mayor calls your name to introduce yourself and give a little background on yourself. And
That'd be fine. Jim English, please.
Somebody has to go first.
Yes. I know you're not afraid.
Jim English, I live at 427 Harbor Drive South. I've lived here in Indian Rocks Beach for about 18 years. I think all the commissioners know me. I'm looking forward to a chance to work with Dan and the city staff and kind of translate what they're saying for the commissioners and work for the commissioners. Any questions you have, I'd be happy to answer.
Jim, would you be willing, in case you're not on this board, to be on the Board of Adjustments, or are you strictly involved in finance?
I don't really have any interest in being in any other board, but no cookie, if you ask nicely. How's that?
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Jim?
I do.
Phil, Jim said that if he does not get on this board, if I asked him nicely, he would put his name in for the budget review.
Planning and zoning.
I mean, planning and zoning. Board of
Boards of
Adjustment.
Adjustment.
We have them on both.
Vacancies as to vote.
Don House, would you like to come forward?
Don House. If y'all don't know me by now, y'all been living underneath the shell. BA in finance, deal with finances all day long, budgets all day long. Anyway, look forward to serving.
Thank you. Let's have Diane Flagg.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Diane Flagg, 2316 Gulf Boulevard. I've owned property since '95 and have been a resident since 2001 in Indian Rocks Beach, and I thank you for the opportunity. I would look forward to serving on the Finance Committee and working with Dan and the city. I do have quite a bit of background. I was in the home building business for 20, 25 years and had an opportunity to run the sales and marketing division with a multi-million-dollar home building company in charge of budgets, expenses, profitability. So I feel like I have the background as well as running a construction company with my husband. So I hope you'll consider my application, and I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine Alvarez?
Good evening, I'm Catherine Blankenship Alvarez. My family came here after World War II, born and raised in this area, and then have been at 2600 Beach Trail for 30 years. Owned a business for 30 years, recently retired. I was in charge of all budgeting, federal financial aid, grants, loans through them. Have a business degree in finance from, well, minors finance from the University of South Florida. And happy to be here and hope that you'll consider me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Earl?
Earl Weston, 671 Garland Circle, Indian Rocks Beach. I have a degree in economics from USF. I was the previous director of real estate for Cash and Carry before they tubed. I oversaw a $30 million a year annual budget for construction, renovation, and assorted projects like that. I had the opportunity to review the 2019 budget, all 57 pages, I believe, of it, so I am fairly familiar with most of the facets of the city's funding, and I would appreciate being appointed to the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Earl. David Watt?
David Watt, 431 Harbor Drive South. A little bit of background. Grew up in around Clearwater, moved away after graduating from University of Florida for a little while to the Atlanta area, came back, got my residence on the Atlantic Beach in 2003, I believe. Background work-wise is I was a construction project manager for about 9 years in the Atlanta market, and I've been self-employed for the last 22 years as a construction manager for a national restaurant chain. Probably have handled about 350 different projects in multiple states, so a lot of budgeting there. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, David. This is an awesome group. Oh my gosh.
Do we need to understand if they're interested in?
Yes, anything that I did not ask, would you be interested, since there's 5 of you and we only have, no, there's 6. There's 6. We only have 2 positions, so obviously, would you, any of you be interested in the Board of Adjustments?
Or the planning and
Or
zoning.
the Planning and Zoning? The Board of Adjustment, Earl, you would be?
Sure.
Okay.
I have some travel restrictions sometimes, and so
Okay.
I would have to know a little bit more about how often the meetings are. I wouldn't want to commit and not be able to participate.
Dean, can you give an idea of what the meetings are, just so that they can know for?
I'll speak to that just
Okay.
because I go to the meetings.
Okay.
It varies by body. Planning and zoning, in the last year, I would say each of them have convened about 3 to 4 times with advance notice, and that would probably be estimating on the more generous side. But they have land planning functions. They consider things like variances for the Board of Adjustment. It considers variances for incursions into rights of way and setbacks and things of the like. Planning and zoning is what it sounds like if you're looking at changing your planning commission. Things like the short-term rental bill, which involve land use designations, start at the planning and zoning level, LPA level. So those are those responsibilities. There's no need for anybody to commit here to anything. It's just trying to make sure we have a sense of if there are volunteers. If you'd like more information, you can certainly contact city staff afterwards. No pressure to vote now or never.
And if there's anyone in the audience who would like to be on the board who has not filled out an application, we would love to have you.
Can I ask Randy a question?
Yes.
So I know this board barely meets. If they're on this board, are they allowed to be also on another board?
No, that's dual office holding.
Okay.
Okay, with that, then what I'd like you to do is we have a ballot, and if you'd like to fill it out, and then we'll give it to Deanne, or we'll give it to Randy.
Okay. Yes, please put your signature on it. It is for public records purposes. Maybe. Okay, thank you for the brief indulgence while an attorney attempts to do math. Based on your votes, we are going to have a runoff as between two members. The Commissioner Paloma voted for Diane Flagg and James English. Commissioner Hanna voted for David Watt, Catherine Alvarez. Commissioner Robel voted for Earl Wesson Jr. and John House Jr. Commissioner Kennedy voted for Catherine Alvarez and Diane Flagg. And Vice Mayor Commissioner Hoofnagel voted for Diane Flagg and Earl Weston. That leaves Diane Flagg with 3 votes. Diane Flagg is an appointed member of the Budget Committee by this vote. That would leave a runoff as between Ms. Alvarez and, excuse me, Earl Weston Jr. And so each of them have 2 votes. So at this point, we need the body to decide amongst yourselves by consensus whom to appoint to the second appointment as between Ms. Alvarez and Mr. Weston Jr. Well, since we're down to 2, and the ballot was done to make it a little easier without motions and the like. At this point, we now have, which and it did make it easier. We've narrowed the field. We've narrowed it now for 1 position. There are 2 people, Mr. Weston Jr. and Ms. Alvarez. With that, we can. It's really at your discretion. You can have a discussion, or we can just poll you as between those 2. I think the more efficient would be to go down the line and just poll. And since I've started keeping records as to this.
Well, the one thing that Earl had said was that he'd be willing to serve on the budget.
So my suggestion would be before we vote, if we have the 2 of them, if they wish to add anything further, now that they're in a different stage, allow them to speak, and then from there we can vote. So if they are still present and wish to add anything, Ms. Alvarez, are you still present? Do you have anything else you wish to add from this body in considering your candidacy for the Budget Committee?
No, I'm with Earl that either of the committees is fine. Plan and zoning is also fine.
Okay. And Mr. Weston, do you have anything else you wish to add to the body for the benefit of the commission?
I just offered your flipper for it, but.
So, thank you.
You know, it's your decision. You know, I'd be honored to be on this particular committee, but also to serve on any other committee.
Thank you. With that, I'm going to poll the commission unless do you have any, does this commission have any more discussion for it? All right, with that, Commissioner Hanna?
Ms. Alvarez.
Commissioner Paloma?
Mr. Watt.
Did you mean Mr.
Wesson? I'm sorry.
Thank you. Mayor Kennedy?
Ms. Alvarez.
Commissioner Robel?
Mr. Wesson.
Vice Mayor Hoofnagel?
First of all, I'd like to say, I thought we were going to do a thumb war or something like that. I think that we as a city are really so fortunate to have the qualified candidates, and I would like to support Mr. Weston, and I would like to ask the rest of the people that volunteer to please consider serving on our other boards. It's very useful for the commission to have these boards recommend policies, and just thank you for getting involved in the city's operations and governance. Thank you.
Thank you. And by your vote tonight, Mr. Wesson and excuse me, Ms. Flagg have been appointed to the Budget Committee. For those others of you, we will move forward with the other appointments at a later time, and I imagine staff may be in touch with you to see what, if any of those boards you're interested in. Thank you very much for your time and for coming to this body.
Do they need a memorandum for that?
No, it's consensus. The vote is memorialized.
Okay. I just need those back.
Yes, of course.
Thank you. Our other legislative matter is 7B, ordinance number 2018-09, first reading. Dan, would you like to?
Sure. Good evening again. Now that we're
One
all...
moment, let me just read the ordinance. Sure.
Okay.
title. I actually don't believe I have the ordinance text.
Here it is.
An ordinance of the City of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, Florida Municipal Corporation here and after Indian Rocks Beach, granting to the city of, no, that's ordinance, let's see.
Right.
Ordinance 2018-09 on first reading, appropriating funds for operating expenses and adopting a budget amendment for the City of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida for fiscal year 2017-18.
Dan, can you present this?
Sorry, is this for the 17-18 budget or 18-19 budget?
This is the 17-18. This is
Thank you.
the year that just ended. Now that we're all well in the budget and finance mood, I guess this was in a good spot. Yeah, we ended the year September 30th, as reported multiple times during the year. You know, the approved budget for last year came in, you know, real close to on target in all areas, revenues and more importantly appropriations. But when you do have deviations, we have to come back at the end of the year and recognize those the same way the budget was adopted initially, way back in, I guess, you know, at the end of 2017. In the agenda memo provided, fortunately this year, again, the budget, the actual expenditures came in real close to the budget. But we had 4 key areas, and some of these are familiar. We've recognized budget adjustments for these before. First, I denote donations that come into the city that came in throughout the year from various civic organizations that were then expended on a multitude of projects. We're finally asking the commission to adjust the final expenses related to the fire at the Public Services Building that happened in 2016. So good news, that's is all completed and wrapped up. But and then we've got a couple other small insurance claims listed. And then finally, we've got some Hurricane Irma expenditures that spilled over from fiscal 17 when the incident happened in 18. For the record, I'd like to note that all these budget adjustments being requested have offsetting revenues or money that's either already come in or is projected to come in, for example, on the Hurricane Irma, as we hope to get reimbursed by FEMA in the state of Florida. So anyways, those are the 4 key areas. It totals up to $136,178. The large majority of it's in the general fund. $28,109 is in the solid waste fund for debris removal from Hurricane Irma. This is first reading, requesting the commission look at and approve the adjustment to last year's budget, and I'm here for any questions.
Do any of the commissioners have a question for Dan?
So Dan, for the accident on 6th Avenue, are we pursuing the insurance company for the recovering of those costs? That's correct. Well, we actually have already recovered those funds. When the person responsible is insured, it's fairly easy. We follow the police report and go after their insurance company immediately. There are occasions where they're uninsured and have more challenges with that, but
Anyone else? Nick?
On the FEMA funds, do we have any realistic time frame on?
I'll go out on a limb and say we're close. We've continued to communicate with our FEMA representative in the state. It's actually been through FEMA, and it's in the state's hands. I think we're just about to get a pretty good chunk of it, but in speaking with other cities in Pinellas County, we're probably in the same position as most. We've not either received very little to none so far, but still every indication is that we should receive all those funds back as submitted.
Anyone else? I'm going to open the public hearing. Is there anyone in the public who would like to speak on this issue at this time? Hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and ask for a motion.
Motion to approve budget adjustments. I don't have the number in front of me.
2018-09.
2018-09.
First reading.
First reading.
Is there a second? Okay. Dan, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Rovell,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nickel,
Yes.
Commissioner Hannah,
Yes?
Commissioner Palumbo,
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes. Thank you. On our last legislative matter is ordinance number C, 2018-10. This is a first reading, and I'm going to let the finance director, I'm going to let the city attorney read the ordinance first.
City of Indian Rocks Beach, ordinance number 2018-10, an ordinance of the City of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, Florida Municipal Corporation, hereinafter Indian Rocks Beach, granting to the City of Clearwater, Florida, its legal representative, successor in science, hereinafter Clearwater, a gas franchise and imposing certain conditions relating thereto, providing for repeal of all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for an effective date. This has been a first reading of ordinance number 2018-10 by title only.
Dan, would you like to present to the commission?
Yes, ma'am. Briefly, we just completed a 30-year franchise agreement with the City of Clearwater, which is the sole provider of gas within the city. This agreement is for a 15-year with an additional 15-year extension if agreeable by both parties. The last agreement ended at a 5% franchise fee. This agreement starts with a 6% franchise agreement. I believe that was more in line with what other municipalities have as a percent with the City of Clearwater. And really that's it. Again, I thank Randy for a lot of the work with this, he did all the work with the City of Clearwater draft the legal documents and whatnot. But obviously, we receive money from franchise fee for the limited area within town that gas is provided. And this would continue to, enable the city to gather those funds going forward.
Can you give us, what is the number there?
It's fairly small due to the limited amount. I believe we were right in the mid $20,000 range for a full fiscal year at a 5% rate. So it would go up minor with a 1% increase at 6%.
Is there anyone on the commission who'd like to ask Dan a question? And if not, I'd like to bring the staff, Clearwater Gas, up to the podium, and Christy Beecham, who is also a very good friend of mine. Disclosure.
I don't want to ignore your check over here, but I'm so grateful to have this little tripod because this is the most current map of the city of Indian Rocks Beach and all of the gas mains and service lines. So I'm going to leave it here with the city, and I'm going to also have a couple of business cards for the two gentlemen. One handles all of Indian Rocks Beach, and we have another newer rep that's handling the Harbor Drive extension. So Chuck Warrington's our director, and he recently approved a strategic main extension, which will start here at Harbor Drive, and we will go all the way up here to hit a couple of new homes, and we've already got signed orders. So that's a 3,800 foot main extension. So that is quite a bit of investment that we put in there. Unfortunately, we're not Duke Energy. We can't just run it and pray that you'll think, oh, I'm gonna hook up the gas. And since we're a choice, we have to run feasibility studies. We do have a neighborhood main extension program. So for every homeowner, you get 300 feet as long as you put in a water heater, a gas water heater, and any other appliances. With last year's Irma, we lost 0 customers to the storm. Let me repeat that one more time for anybody who's listening. Oh, we lost 0 customers to the storm. So we're pretty happy, pleased with that, but the generator calls have really increased. I think I've approved close to 30 generator plus a water heater main extensions in the last 6-7 months. So we're at 24,500 customers. You roughly have about 198 customers right now. I'm sorry Mr. Balls left because I wanted to tell him I know there's a service line already at his restaurant. So please turn them on as fast as possible so you can get more franchise fees money from us. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Christy, how does a person go about even talking to you? Do they call you? How do they go about having a discussion about putting gas in their home? If they're eligible, How does that work?
So they'll call our main sales number line, and then we qualify and ask a couple questions. What city are you in? That'll direct which rep you get, and then they'll explain to you basically the program I just told you about. You're going to ask about, well, do I get incentives for putting in a stub out for my grill or my range? And those are all questions that designated salesperson would ask. I believe Donnie Packer and Jason King met with several of the homeowners on Harbor Drive. So I was excited that we were going to do the gas franchise tonight because we recently got that approved, and there's been a lot of discussion. So yeah, and unlike Duke, we don't charge all to bury our lines. It's not going to cost you $35 million to get down Gulf Boulevard. We do it ourselves. So can I answer any other questions?
I mean, I know I have it in my house, and I got it through a block grant that they were doing back in like 2010.
A block grant?
Yeah, well, that's what they called it, where they ran it down to my house, and I just had to pay to run it across the street and all that. And it was, I mean, it was very economical for me, and I was happened to be talking to a gentleman today that is on La Hacienda, and he has a big generator at his present house in Baton Rouge that he wants to bring here, but he says there's no gas lines down that way. And I don't know what it takes for you to run it that far, because it is a little bit out of the way from Gulf Boulevard.
God bless Mayor Di Nicola when I first started here, but he was like, Christy, you gotta get down these fingers, But because of the feasibility, we can't just run it. But what they would do is call us and find out. Eric Meyer, huge gas supporter in the crowd tonight. RB, former mayor, he just put gas in his house in the last 6 months. So there's a process.
Right.
But if you pay to get it extended to you, if anybody between that main extension and your house turns on a gas meter within a year of yours, we will refund you some of that feasibility money that you fronted.
Okay, so there's no grants like that going on?
Yeah, I don't know about that grant.
Yeah, because they did it. I mean, I didn't pay anything to get it down to in front of my house, and obviously
depends on where it was from.
Obviously, there's 5 more people that hooked up to it since they brought it that far for me.
Your year's expired, sorry.
What's that?
Your year's expired, sorry.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else like that?
They all hooked up within a year, but we'll wait.
I'm going to open the public hearing for a minute, and Christy, have a seat right there. So don't go too far. Anybody who'd like to come up and make a comment?
Not many people are. Carol Brits, 466 20th. It's not really a comment as much as a question, because we have gas, but we have bottled gas. I did not even know there were gas lines. So how do we find out where there's existing lines in the city?
You need to...
where do we, I mean, do I just call them, or?
Well, that's what we asked. The question before that I asked her was, and she told us how to. Do you have any flyers?
I have cards out.
Okay, she will get you a card, and then you can call her up.
Because I
That
know
was
the
a
gas
question that we
companies
asked.
go to a lot of houses and they're getting bottled gas. And I'd rather have it underground, obviously,
Okay.
so, cool.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to come up?
Real quick, propane is not regulated, so we had to go to the Public Service Commission to file territory agreement with Tico Peoples Gas years ago. So we provide natural gas to all the beach communities through Reddington Beach, but I have propane accounts in Madeira. I have propane accounts in the middle of Tico's territory. So it's unregulated. We could start our own LP business, but that's what we don't like, is to see 5 different bulk trucks driving down your street, cracking your sidewalks, so you can get, your pool heater heated. So we'll talk.
Thank you.
Anyone else who's come forward?
Mayor, Commissioners, thank you for your service to our community. My name is Clayton Price. I live at 2560 Wilson Largo, 33770. The reason why I'm here speaking is I'm currently a student at St. Petersburg College. I'm seeking my bachelor's degree in public administration and public policy and administration. For my class assignment, I was given the task of reviewing a first reading item, meeting with an expert in order to determine whether or not the agenda item was beneficial for the community, as well as making my own recommendations. I met with Miss Christy Pettit. She is a community representative for Clearwater Gas. She specializes in franchise renewals Ms. Pettit is an active and former marketing chair for the Natural Gas Association and the Public Gas Association, as well as a past chair for the Southern Gas Association's Growth and Retention Committee. Ms. Pettit has worked in the industry for 19 years, 18 of which she's worked with Clearwater Gas. I was able to sit down with her and discuss the benefits that the citizens of Indian Rocks Beach, as well as the city as a whole, would receive if Clearwater Gas franchise is accepted. When I began my research, I started by looking into the history of Clearwater Gas. The city of Clearwater just celebrated its 100-year anniversary. Clearwater Gas just celebrated its 95th. Clearwater Gas has provided gas services to more than 20,000 residential customers within Pinellas County. As an example of the quality of service that Clearwater Gas provides, last year during Hurricane Irma, Clearwater Gas was able to provide to all of its customers without delay and didn't lose a single customer, as she stated earlier. And not all businesses can say the same. After I established that Clearwater Gas was a reputable business, my first concern was whether or not the residents would incur a price increase if the franchise agreement is renewed. I was informed that the residents would not see a noticeable increase or decrease in price. She said it would be between 1 to 2 cents, give or take. If there was, and that they wouldn't notice a difference in their bill. Next, I wanted to know the number of residents that were affected. As of right now, there are approximately 200 citizens within Indian Rocks Beach that are receiving gas from Clearwater Gas. I wanted to determine whether or not Indian Rocks Beach should consider its own gas service as Clearwater Gas did. I quickly decided that this would not be a smart decision for the city due to the fact that the tremendous cost and the infrastructure is already established. I estimated the cost just for the infrastructure alone would be well over $1 million, and I could not find the rationale to spend that much money to provide services that are already being provided without an issue. My last question I wanted to answer was, how does Indian Rocks benefit from this agreement? Besides the obvious that the residents will receive gas to their house, Indian Rocks Beach will also receive the 6% franchise renewal fee that was discussed earlier. In my conclusion, I recommended that the city of Indian Rocks Beach should extend this contract with Clearwater Gas, because not only do the citizens and residents of Indian Rocks Beach benefit, but it also strengthens the community of Pinellas County through collaborative efforts. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you very much for coming. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on this issue? With that, I'm going to close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve ordinance 2018-10.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Can we call the roll, Deanne?
Commissioner Hannah?
Yes.
Commissioner Palumbo?
Yes.
Commissioner Rovell?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hufnagle?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy?
Yes. We have no other business to come before this commission tonight. I appreciate all of you sticking with us and being here. And at this moment, is there anyone who would like to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for coming.